good afternoon to every one of you. And it's my privilege and honor to be here talking to you on the subject of Deity Yoga. Is my voice big enough? Subject of Deity Yoga in particular, and then maybe something about Buddhism in general, and so on and so on. Barbara might have told you, or history going back. Actually, I think all of you probably are quite young, and I'll tell you one thing. This is my second time in Toronto, and make a guess, when was the last time I was here? 40 years ago. This is my second time. I was here when I was 1977, precisely. I was like 11, 12 years old boy then. I was very fortunate to be with my precious enlightened Guru, and he was so kind and compassionate, and he took me with him wherever he'd go. When on his tour, world tour, teaching tour. So in 1977, he came to North America, and we were here in Toronto. I remember we were in New York. From there, we went to Washington, D.C. He had a lot of activity everywhere. Washington, D.C., and then kind of back and forth. From there, we were in Boston, New Hampshire, Vermont, and then we were up in Montreal. There's a group and followers there. And from Montreal, came to Toronto. And I was telling people who was asking me, how was it Toronto after 40 years? Was that good? Do you remember anything about Toronto? I told them, I only remember one thing, that Space Needle. You see that tower, Space Needle? That existed back then. One of my precious Guru's disciple took us there, and we went upstairs and things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, they were saying that time something like, this is the tallest, actually, if you count those little antennae up in the sky, this is the tallest in the world, and this and that. Not anymore, but back they were saying things like, so that I remember. Other than that, I don't remember. After that, I went back to India and went through traditional training through a retreat that Barbara just mentioned. And then after that, I was considered a qualified teacher, young teacher. Then I was traveling and teaching around the world. I stayed a few years in Europe and came back home. So I've been actually in North America for a long time. And since then, in British Columbia a few times in Canada. Other than that, I never get to come to Toronto. And this time, Barbara and I are very close. We know each other more than 40 years now, you see. So she keep on telling me, please come, please come. And it's my privilege and honor to be here and see you all like that, okay? So, anyway, I think I assume that you all know basically about Buddhist doctrine and so on. But in order to mention to you the teaching of Vajrayana principle and the defining characteristic of so-called Vajrayana or Tantrayana, sometimes use the word Mantrayana, secret Vajrayana, Mantrayana, Tantrayana, Vajrayana is all referring to the same thing. Okay? So, defining characteristic of Vajrayana path, or for that matter, what constitutes path of Vajrayana is actually Deity Yoga, this thing called Deity Yoga. So that's what defines path of Vajrayana. As you all probably already know, in Buddhism, there generally existed three different types of Buddhism, right? Hinayana, Sanskrit, or English. English language is very good. It adopts Sanskrit origin language into its own language. So the words like Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana, it has become an English language now. So Hinayana in today it's considered politically incorrect word. Now you have to say Theravadins. Because Hinayana means lesser vehicle, lower vehicle. So it's considered incorrect in today's world. So I seldom use that word. But I tell you one thing, it's very interesting. But in order to eliminate that word completely from Buddhist vocabulary, it would be impossible. But there were the Theravadins and others who didn't like that word, and they say, oh, this word needs to be stopped and not used, and things like that. They're mentioning of that. I'm like, we could do it, but you cannot eliminate that. You know what? Guess what? The one who was using that word originally, Lord Buddha himself was using that word. One of my favorite sutras is called Sutra of Great Liberation. And Lord Buddha taught a great deal on the yanas. Yana means vehicle, okay? Hinayana and Mahayana. And he makes distinction between Hinayana and Mahayana, and he tremendously praises the path of the great vehicle, meaning it's the Bodhisattva path. You all know what Bodhisattva path means, right? Path of altruism, the Bodhisattva, individual spiritual practitioner who take vow to help liberate all sentient beings, and then engage in all kinds of righteous and virtuous actions, and thereby he becomes a free and pure being. And so this is a great path, and in terms of cause-effect, how it becomes is, cause, perfect aspiration and perfect motivation, result, perfection happens. So it's law of causality, you can say, cause and effect. Like that, right? So therefore, Lord Buddha emphasized a great deal in praising this particular path of the great vehicle. One should try to encourage his fellow disciple to accept that kind of spiritual undertaking, great vehicle. And he would make a comparison. This is the path of the great vehicle is like a mighty ocean, he would say. Whereas like the path of the lesser vehicle is like a water in a cow's footprint. If there was a rain, and the cow's footprint and a mud is a little, little dented space there, and there might be a little water there, right? And there's no comparison between mighty ocean. So he would make that kind of comparison. Cow's footprint versus mighty ocean comparison. And then he would say things like, do you all know from Hindu mythology and Buddhist mythology to a thing called Mount Sumeru? You all know the concept of Mount Sumeru? It's supposed to be the giant, the biggest mountain in the universe, okay, according to this mythology, and it's supposed to be the biggest of the biggest. And he would say things like, comparison between great vehicle and the lesser vehicle is like the comparison between Mount Sumeru and the termites mountain. And he would say things like that. So my point is, we as a follower of Mahayana and Vajrayana Buddhists, we can be polite, and we would love to be sincere and polite and accepting and all those things. And we can say Theravada. But to eliminate the terminology completely, as a incorrect terminology is not possible, because it's just recorded in the sutra, and the Lord Buddha himself is using such languages, not out of denigrating one to another or anything like that, but out of his infinite love and compassion, encouraging people to get out of that path and adopt a greater spiritual undertaking, so that you can become a perfect and free and pure being. Now, since you've been studying a little bit, you already know a little bit about the concept of Buddhist ideas and so on, with the Vajrayana path, the path of the Deity Yoga, creation, completion, has everything to do with Lord Buddha's teaching. And as a matter of fact, it is understood. We are Vajrayana follower, Tibetan Buddhism. Although some modern scholars have said that Tibetan Buddhism is a Lamaism, an invention of Tibetans, and this and that. I mean, to some degree, some not very well informed scholars and so on maybe have some reason to doubt, because such version was never practiced in Tibetan way of doing things didn't happen, at least in terms of ceremony and things like that in other places around the world, where Buddhism thrived. But in Tibet, there are some very unique things, and I think there's some mixing, transformation, some old Tibetan way of doing things also later intermingled into a Vajrayana Buddhist ritual, and it became transformed, and so on and so on. Okay. So anyway, from our point of view, we believe this is not only it's a Buddhist teaching, but it's the final Buddhist teaching. That's Vajrayana Buddhists and Tibetan Buddhists claim and believe. They believe that from the depth of their heart, philosophically and otherwise. Actually, they believe that. Now, philosophically speaking, you all read a little bit about Nagarjuna, right? Nagarjuna talks about, Nagarjuna was one of the greatest opponents of Buddhist thought and middle way philosophy. And then there's a middle way philosophy is interpreted in different ways, since Nagarjuna, from his students, they interpret it differently. And these interpretations were very great interpretation, because his disciple philosophers were not just, thinkers alone, but they were meditators, practitioners. According to their experience, they interpreted differently, and every one of these interpretations has valid reason, valid meaning behind. Something that you can say holds. It all has very, very solid reason and solid understanding behind it. Anyway, then there came a Tibetan master some time ago, which I am also kind of part of it, because my guru held that lineage as well. And it was called a Jonang lineage. Have you ever heard of Jonang lineage in Tibet? Maybe. Have you ever heard of Kalachakra Tantra? Yeah, Jonang lineage is a primary lineage holder of the Kalachakra Tantra tradition in Tibet. There was one very great master in Tibet, the Jonang master, Kalachakra Tantra master, called Omniscient Dolbopa. He lived around 12th, 13th century, around there. 13, could have been beginning of the 14th century, somewhere around there. Dolbopa, Omniscient Dolbopa was called. He was a very great master, a highly realized being. And he came up with his own interpretation of final middle way philosophical thought, so to speak, and he called it a emptiness doctrine, emptiness, and he called it an emptiness of other. That's the term he used. And you can discuss a lot about how this, and then among Tibetan scholars, Buddhist master, they had a lot of debates about, about his interpretation of emptiness of other, because he would say things like Buddha nature. He would say things like Buddha nature is a ultimately existing phenomena. He would assert existence, for instance, just like creationists does assert existence of God. Creationists all do, right? Similar type of, a little bit similar type of idea. He was asserting Buddha nature, a permanently existing phenomena, and he would say things like it's a permanently existing, it's an existing phenomena, it's a permanent, and it's pure, and then it's blissful, and things like that. Okay, so subsequent Madhyamaka philosophers from so-called emptiness of self, and that's what basically a lot of people think that's what Nagarjuna was asserting. Okay, and they had some disagreement. They thought that the assertion is wrong. You cannot assert anything, and they would go back to this Heart Sutra thing that you just read. if you read Hot Sutta, you know you can really not assert anything, because it's something else. So now here, the question is ultimate reality, you know. And then philosophers debate ultimate reality cannot be asserted, some philosophers. And things like omniscient Dogopa, you know, you can assert transcendent existence, okay, and things like that. So anyway, reason why I'm mentioning this, and this is kind of a little bit of point with respect to Vajrayana and Deity Yoga, is in Tantric doctrine, the secret Mantrayana tradition, Vajrayana tradition which uses a path of Deity Yoga as a path to transform everything. Actually, in Tantrayana and Vajrayana and Mantrayana, you know, the pure phenomena is asserted. Actually, reality is just that the impure phenomena is not real. They would say pure phenomena is asserted. Otherwise, Buddha phenomena, enlightened phenomena, would be would become you know, would be also you cannot. I mean, you cannot. There's no way you could come to that kind of understanding correctly otherwise. So in Deity Yoga, now, your subject is in Deity Yoga. Right? In Deity Yoga, the main aspects of the Deity Yoga is, you know, practicing pure phenomena. And Tantra and the Tantric doctrine that which uses the Deity Yoga to, you know, become enlightened is considered the supreme method, the ultimate method, because you know, it's called actually a the real terminology here is it's called path of resultant path. Path, cause, and then you have result, right? And generally, you know, cause, practice generosity, and you have result, you know, giving, and then result receiving, so to speak, and that's general path. But in Vajrayana path, you know, you don't have to go that way. You can use whatever the result is, use that as a path. So that is what is called a resultant path. And the resultant path is basically talking about the Deity Yoga. Okay? And the Deity Yoga constitute resultant path because deity manifestation, say like Padmasambhava, and if you were to visualize, meditate, practice on Padmasambhava, manifestation Padmasambhava is a pure body, pure manifestation. Okay? So you're using this pure manifestation to achieve purity, and that's how it works. So the technique is actually very, very profound. As a matter of fact, it's an ultimate technique, understanding this. Okay, and now, so here, actually, a fortunate being who is really interested in spiritual transformation and overcoming confusion, illusion, and pain and suffering altogether, and want to experience nothing but pure phenomena and Buddha phenomena and Buddha consciousness, so on. Well, you know, if you have a right connection, right teaching, and you make right effort, you can, as a matter of fact, become a pure being. And how do you do that? Well, if you do a Deity Yoga practice, well, transformation could take place. And it's all power of mind and then power of imagination, so to speak. And if you can focus correctly, imagine correctly, and focus correctly, and then make effort enough, transformation can take place. So that's why in a Vajrayana, Mantrayana, and Tantric Buddhism, they make enormous promise. And the promise is attainment, being able to attain enlightenment in single lifetimes. This path actually makes a promise that if you are really serious, you do all the right thing, you abide by the code of ethic of this particular tradition correctly and so on, you could become a pure being in one lifetime. And then how do you how does the practice work? Well, you need to do Deity Yoga. Okay. Now here's the thing, Deity Yoga. Say like Thomas Sambhawa, or I usually like to use the example of Chenrezig. You all know Chenrezig, right? Chenrezig, manifestation of Buddha in the form of all the Buddhas manifesting in a form of compassion to all sentient beings, and that's very important manifestation. Is one of the most important deity because compassion is the one everybody needs the most. So that's why this particular manifestation becomes very important to everyone, because everybody's starving for that, and that's the most important energy that we need, and that's the one thing that we need to generate and so on also. So therefore that practice and that mantra and that meditations all becomes very, very important. Okay? So now, here's how it really, really works. Tantric method, tantric path, tantric method really is supreme method, supreme technique. And then it doesn't say, oh, you poor lost sentient being here, okay, you need to sacrifice yourself something this much to get to this point. No, it says if your heart is there and you're willing to generate correct, enlightened, aspirations and so on, then you're willing to abide by the tantric code of ethic. Well, I'll give you a technique, and then you do that, and that is, well, the technique is you get a teaching and empowerment to practice, say like Chenrezig, and then you get to do the Chenrezig practice, and then you get to tell yourself and you get to train yourself in an instant from this very ordinary body, confused being, not that great being, lost, ego, attached, all kinds of, affliction, attachment, aversion, stupidity, jealousy, pride, all kinds of emotion, instantly get to let it go and say, I'm this pure being, Chenrezig. See, that's the thing. Instantly, in a single instant, you can say, I'm Chenrezig. And if you can train yourself, maintain yourself, such a pure, divine state of vision, then there's a chance that you can actually become completely pure being. So that's where the practice comes in. So you do that again and again. Say like, you all must have heard from Barbara that we do traditional 3-year retreat and so on. In our retreat, how this practice works? For instance, if we have a 3-month, like your course, 3-month for Chenrezig practice, say like 3-month Chenrezig practice, we have 4 sessions a day. We have to get up. The retreat program, 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 to 6 is the first early morning session. Then from 6 to 8 we have a little break, morning break. Then 8 to 11, second session. From 11 to 1 we have break, And then 1 to 3, third session. Then we have an evening break and little offering prayer break and things like that. And then again evening from something like 5:30 or so, 5:30 or so to 8 in the last session. Then we have little concluding prayers to do, then we go to sleep, and the next morning again. So we would do, like we would train ourselves. You train yourself 4 times a day, at least like 12 hours, doing Chenrezig meditation technique. That technique apply again and again. Go through all the successive prayers, correctly motivating yourself, correctly generating enlightened attitude, and then saying correct prayers and so on. And then process of Deity Yoga visualization. You visualize, you transform everything. And there's a lot of technique of transforming everything. And there's detailed technique in transforming the evolution of samsara into enlightenment completely. Say like technique of how we came about in terms of human birth, all the way from seed of father, mother's womb, and the birth taking place, how we grow. There's a little visualization technique to how to transform every one of them, and then finally you become boom and you're Chenrezig, and then you you try to maintain that visualized state and recite and pray. And then when you're reciting the mantra, it's a very powerful thing. Mantra is really a mantra. In English, what is the mantra? Well, the mantra is the real stuff. Mantra is Chenrizik. Say like Chenrizik, Lord of Love and Compassion. Okay, Chenrizik is regarded as manifestation of all Buddhist love and compassion, and then mantra is that particular representation of what that particular manifestation is. That's what it is. So we're not a great meditator, and if we did not master the visualization and so on, so they're very difficult for us to relate to this pure manifestation. However, if you can have enough faith in the mantra, then you have direct connection with that. So that's what the mantra is. Okay? So it is understood and believed in our tradition, even if you don't have ability to perfectly visualize and meditate and so on. If you have a profound faith and confidence in the mantra, and the belief that the mantra is Lord of Love and Compassion, you will still get enormous benefit. Each time you recite the mantra sincerely, you get closer to getting in touch with Lord of Love and Compassion. In other words, just kind of believe like that. And then there are people, usually like focus, one pointed focus, 100% focus, and transformation is very difficult. Very few people can master that. Among thousands of practitioners, very few people can master that. However, a lot of people can recite the mantra. In our tradition in Tibet, people will make, commitments help. So they will make commitment to recite a lot of mantras. We have a lot of Tibetans, especially senior citizens, who will make commitment to recite 100 million manis. Manis, by the way, is Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra, okay? We call it mani. In Tibetan, we say mani. Now I have to use the English accent, manis. 100 million manis. And a lot of people recite that, and they believe it, even that they may not understand theoretically, philosophically, how the whole thing works very much, but they have faith there, And then recite. By the time they recite like 100 million times, 100 million repetition, you can see a lot of spiritual transformation is taking place. They're very, some of them you can even see illiterate. They cannot read and write, but they have natural understanding of the phenomena, direct experience, real experience of what's going on, like that. And then you can tell that having conversation with them, like they understand, They're not able to describe very well because they don't have the tools to do it, This education is tool to communicate very well, but it's not necessarily absolutely necessary in order to become enlightened. Usually the education will help in general. If you don't understand something, you study, you learn, and then it will convince you that practice, tradition, prayer, say like meditation and so on is important. If you study very well, then you realize it's important and how it works, and you can do it, right? But if you're pure and sincere and pray and you're in the right place and the right master and so on, actually you could become enlightened without even reading and writing. There are many stories and examples in our tradition in Tibet. People, many, just some old folks over there, cannot read and write nothing, but you can see they have perfectly purely awakened mind, like that, things like that. Anyway, mantras of that. Okay, so path of Deity Yoga is a path, is a transformation, path of transformation. Earlier I mentioned resultant paths. Deity, Chenrizik manifestation is already manifest thing, right? It's already result. Pure manifestation, in other words, and you use that as a path to achieve enlightenment. So that's why in the terminology is called a resultant path sometimes. Tantric tradition, Vajrayana, Mantrayana because he uses a lot of mantras. Secret Mantrayana, and then and secret has different interpretation, but in general interpretation in secret yana is that this is very unique and special samaya bound path, and you have to be very careful and practice it very purely and carefully, and then you can't just share it with everybody else. That's one way of understanding this secret path. And then there are other interpretations of that, but that's not. Anyway, then the tantra means teaching. And the connotation of tantra has basically something to do with this is, you can say something like supreme doctrine that is that which is uttered by the supreme being, and it will continue. Continuity has something to do with tantra. And one way of understanding is, if you use the word tantra has been, tantra will always be. The only issue for a Buddhist every now and then is that whether it becomes public or not. Things like that. Okay? Anyway, maybe that's not that important. But Deity Yoga, now let me emphasize once again, it's the transformation path, and then the path itself has, I'm sure Barbara explained to you, the path itself has aspect of creation and aspect of completion. Okay? Two paths. Creation and completion. We call it Kirim and Zoblim. So this two path is important because it's perfectly balanced teaching now, and perfectly balanced path. And this balance is necessary because, generally speaking, what happens in the world is, everybody make two types of mistake. Possibility of making two mistakes for anybody and everybody who wants to be in the path. One is mistake of believing the world is eternal. Something is completely eternal, and then in believing in this eternal world, to be honest to you, Buddhists think all the theistic traditions fall into this category of eternal world, because you hold on to it. That's one. And then the other extreme of this is nihilistic. Nothing exists. And that's where the atheists fall in my opinion, so-called modern atheists, but the atheists from ancient time, and this is karma. People have karma, and they fall into these things, like that. Anyway, the Deity Yoga of creation completion is perfectly balancing act of not falling into any extreme is what it is. And the extremes of eternalist and nihilist is what it is. So first, creation yoga. Okay, creation, everything is pure phenomena, pure deity, pure practice, and pure, say like embodiment of love and compassion, form of generosity. For instance, the most popular form in Tibet is 4-on. In China, it's Guanyin, 2-on. But in Tibet, popular one is 4-on 1, with the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. That's the most popular. And how it is with its images and ornaments and everything has significant, all kinds of pure significance to every one of them. And then, you from one moment you're an ordinary being, and then next thing you can think is I'm a pure being. See? And then you're pure. And so on. And then if you practice this pure deity yoga correctly, and in order to practice correctly, you you have to understand how the Deity Yoga works really well. All kinds of, there are detailed teachings on what constitutes true, pure, perfect pure, so to speak. Because you can make a lot of mistakes also, and not understanding that, and then mistakes can be made, thinking that you are pure, but you didn't quite understand how purity works, and you still make mistakes and things like that. Okay? So anyway, that's that, and that is to balance it from nihilistic extreme, nihilism. Okay? Your balance and pure phenomena exists. Okay? Then, even with that pure phenomena, if you didn't understand correctly, you could still make mistake, thinking everything is pure, but you could still hold on to that pure phenomena. And if you do, as pure as it may be, you're still trapped into one extreme. You're still falling into the category of eternal world now. You like to think and believe it's pure, but it's still wrong. Now, the goal is freedom and liberation in Buddhism. Okay, perfection, freedom and liberation. And here, if you hold on to some kind of pure phenomena, pure thing, like conceptually and otherwise, without correctly understanding, well, it's still considered trapped. And we have a saying, we call it, if you're chained by gold, or you're chained by ordinary metal, this chain is still a chain, So it's that kind of stuff, okay? So in order to balance it correctly, then the second aspect is completion stage. Completion stage will help you to eliminate falling into the trap of the eternal world. Eternalism. Deity Yoga is completely created, you pure phenomena, pure world, self and other and universe is pure. This is how you visualize and meditate. Okay? Then at the end of the meditation, you dissolve entire creation aspect, that yourself as pure being and so on, back into, finally into a little sphere of light, and then you will kind of hold and you have to let it go completely. And then mind needs to, everything is dissolved, and let it go completely, and then in that let go of everything state, where the mind needs to rest perfectly and purely, in non-contrived, pure state of mind. And you can meditate like that. That's a completion meditation. And if you do that, both of this, then you will not fall into any extremes of nihilism and eternalism. And that's what the Deity Yoga is all about. It's just perfect teaching by a perfect enlightened teacher. Perfect balance of how you should not fall into any extremes. Yeah. And then there comes in terms of like practical aspect of meditation practice, then comes the next stage is called a post-meditative stage, or sometimes it's translated into English also as subsequent attainment. Through meditation, whatever you did, and you have to carry on that in your post-meditative stage. And if you're a practitioner in a resultant path, the tantric path, then you are a practitioner of the deity of Chenrezig, then you have to maintain the sacred outlook of Chenrezig Hood and Chenrezig Ram during your post-meditative state, action meditation, in other words. You're going around talking. Let's say I'm a Chenrezig meditative practitioner, and right now I'm not in a meditation session, right? I did my creation meditation and completion meditation. Now I'm post-meditative stage. When I'm talking to you, I am to think and believe and imagine that you're all Chenrezig, and I am a Chenrezig. And the sounds that I'm hearing, these are all profound sounds of mantra. No matter what it is, even the car running, I'm hearing Om Mani Padme Hum. You're trained like that, actually. And then whatever thought runs through your mind, you think, these are all nothing but vast wisdom of Chenrezig mind. Things like that. So these are way of training like that. And if you're very serious, a very sincere practitioner, you train like that, you practice, you can accomplish things. And that's where these great so-called Mahasiddhas come from. Mahasiddhas, they practice and they really focus and train 100% and became enlightened. You did Tilopa, right? There's a story that Tilopa chained himself and sat and meditated 12 years. And then he was fully awakened, and the chains fall apart naturally, like that. Milarepa was in cave 12 years, alone, eating nettles. Amazing. When you hear that story, there's nobody in planet Earth who would not be moved by that kind of dedication, sincerity. No wonder he made the history. It's like that. So this is how you train, and transformation can really, really take place. And that's because we're all potential Buddha, and everything is mind. And if you have right information towards working in how to overcome all the little dust in your mind and how to get rid of them and then how to shine yourself, well, it works. And the Deity Yoga comes in as the supreme technique. And then practitioners also taught a lot of teachings on how to deal with all your daily emotions and everything according to Deity Yoga practice, including desires, attachments, and aversions, and jealousy, how to transform that. And again, you can use deity meditation technique to transform everything. Everything is mind, and emotions are mind. You may call it hormones and all, whatever, but it's all mind. And then mind, body can influence the mind. The mind can influence the body actually even more so than the body can influence the mind. A lot of the time in modern days, people almost take like body has overwhelming power to influence you completely. But actually, spiritually speaking, mind has more power to influence body than anything else. So you can use Deity Yoga technique to take care of everything actually. All emotional difficulties. Things like that. Barbara, what is the timeline now?